Hi, you guys. It's Erin. So today was a big holiday, and I don't know about you, but it didn't feel like the holiday that it normally is. Easter for people is usually a day where you gather with your family. For some people who aren't necessarily really religious, it's one of like the four big times of the year. You go to church. For a lot of people, it's a time when there's many family reunions. Um, yeah, this is a weird Easter. Usually there's some celebration. Usually there's people come together. It's a together time, and so because this is a together time, I totally understand why so many cities and counties close their parks because this is a together time. And so today was a weird day. If any of you guys remember after Hurricane Ike, Ike happened in September, and that first Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas were really, really strange because all of our decorations were washed away, and we were still trying to figure out what our losses were and trying to just recover from the hurricane. And so if I remember during that time that our holidays went by, and they went by weirdly. I remember that was the year that no one had Christmas decorations for Christmas. And it feels a lot like that time right now, where our holidays and some of the things we celebrate, and our the things that give us the passage of time, we're not able to participate in. So the concept and the feeling of time is strange right now. And so a lot of times, our holidays, especially in our country, at least for me, help identify where we are in our space and our period of time. And Easter is spring, and that means we're, getting ready to wrap up, school. And Easter gives you the idea that spring is coming. If you're in the winter, it means the crocuses are coming up. It's finally stopped snowing. Easter and the first day of spring, that has like a lot of it has a lot of nostalgia. It's not just religious. It's a passage of time. And so for those of you who are feeling like you are missing that thing, I am too. It's very weird. It's a very discombobulating feeling. And then because our world is so weird, we have ribs. So I have a funny story. Here's a funny story. When I first got to Texas 14 years ago, I'm from the East Coast and grew up in the East Coast. And so I was new to Texas. So this is kind of a funny story. So I got to Texas, and I wasn't here for very long, and I noticed that people were really into barbecuing. Like barbecuing in a way that I'd never seen. I've lived all over the South. I've lived in Georgia and Florida, and I've been all over the country. And Texas, it was strange. It was different. It took all day long, and then it turned out that they ate brisket. And I thought, why do you eat brisket? Where I'm from, that's like the worst piece of meat, and nobody eats brisket. We eat filet, and we eat ribs, and we eat all kinds of stuff. And so, what a gift it has been in our house that my husband has spent many of the days spending all day long tending to one piece of meat on the barbecue for an entire day. And for that, I am thankful. I didn't understand it. I still don't completely understand it, but it has been kind of funny in our world that that the amount of time that it takes to make brisket has been a benefit and a joy in our house because it's given my husband something to do. And I don't think that I'll ever make fun of people taking 12 hours to make Texas brisket again, because I've appreciated the fact that it has given him purpose, and it takes a long time. So, but ironically, we did not have brisket tonight. We had short ribs. We had ribs, but again, it took him 8 hours to make it, and for that, I am very grateful that my husband had a task to do all day long, and it resulted in some tasty ribs. wouldn't necessarily call it traditional Easter food, but it kept him busy and it nourished us, and for that I am grateful. So let's hear it for it taking 8 to 12 hours to barbecue brisket or ribs in Texas using a smoker instead of using what us Northerners are used to doing, and that's just either making it in a pan or putting it out on the propane barbecue. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to let you know a couple of things. I'm keeping an eye on a couple of things, and there's been some programs that have rolled out, some SBA programs. There's been some unemployment programs. There have been some regional programs that are rolling out. And if you know me, you know that I like to test out what something is offering. And so I have, because for the couple of months I had signed up as an Uber driver because I was trying to figure out how to help seniors get rides from people that they knew. I technically was a 1099 employee for Uber for 2 months, which puts me in a position where I can file for unemployment as a 1099 contractor, which I did. So I wanted to see how the state of Texas unemployment was working for 1099 contractors, because they are saying that in this period of time that a 1099 or a self-contractor would be eligible for unemployment with a minimum of, I think it's $600 a month guaranteed income or something like that. Excuse me. And then the other thing that I did is that as a 1099 contractor, I also signed up for the SBA Small Business $10,000 grant. I put my information in there, and I wanted to see how that works, what it looks like, what my experience was, because I want to be able to tell you what my experience has been. And then the other thing that I did is I went ahead and I filed for food stamps, and I filed for TANF. And TANF is what we call welfare. Now, I did not anticipate being eligible for TANF because our family, our assets are too much. Technically, though, my husband is a contractor, and he currently does not have, all of his contracts are frozen. Everybody's in limbo like everybody else. So technically, in our household, we don't have any income coming in, and so I wanted to test those programs to see if any of those programs would serve our household. And so I filled out all of those forms on the 3rd, and I believe it was on the 8th I found out that first I was rejected for regular Texas unemployment, which I expected because you have to go through the regular Texas unemployment first. And because I was a 1099 and I didn't have all of last year's income, they would automatically reject me, which I expected. Now, according to everything that I've read and everything that has been explained to me, starting today actually, any of those rejected unemployment claims go to a second review, which that review is reviewed by the CARE Act, or I think they're calling it a PUA, and I can't remember what that stands for. So if you were rejected from the original unemployment application, that application automatically goes to the second round of the federal money that they're talking about for unemployment, that they say does cover a independent contractor, an Uber person, somebody with a side hustle, somebody with a side gig, that kind of a thing. So I'll let you know what comes of that. But right now, I've officially been rejected from regular unemployment in Texas, and I'm waiting for the second review for whatever is supposed to come from the feds. So I'll keep you up to date on that. So, and then in a separate box, which was my benefits for Texas, I filled out all the information for TANF, which is welfare, and then I also filled out the information for food stamps, because one of the things that they're saying is that they're going to be providing resources to emergency food stamp applications, as well as increasing the food stamp allowance for people who already have food stamps. So I wanted to test and see how that process worked. Both of the processes, it was very easy to fill out all of the information. And there's some really good guides online as to how to properly complete that. I do know that when you are filling out forms for the government, for programs, it is really important that you fill them out accurately, and the way that they need to be filled out the first time around. It makes everything easier. If you have questions about how to fill something out, there's always somewhere on the internet that will say, this is the best way to fill out unemployment if you are an Uber driver. This is the best way to fill out unemployment if you were a 1099 contractor, or this is the best way to fill it out if you're a waitress. So you have a lot of resources out there. If you need to find some, send me a note and I'll let you know. So under the different, so you had to go to a different place and I'll leave the links to everything that I filled out below when I'm done. So I filled out the unemployment. I got rejected, which for regular unemployment. Now I've moved over, and so I'm pending review for the federal resources that came in under the CARE Act. So then I went to the other area with my benefits, texas.com, I think is what it is, something like that. And I filled out for the welfare, which is now TANF, T-A-N-F. And I was rejected for that, which I assumed I would be, because we do have resources and assets that it would be, I would be surprised. I would honestly be disappointed if I was qualified for TANF, but I was not, and so that part was rejected. However, in the food stamp area, my application remains pending. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not, based on the fact that I'm technically unemployed as an Uber driver, and my husband is currently not receiving any income because his contract is currently suspended, or whether or not we'll be eligible for food stamps, and that'll be something that'll be interesting, and I'll let you know if that comes through. And then the third thing that I did is I did go to the SBA website, and I did complete the information to sign up for the SBA program that not only included a small amount of financing, but also included the $10,000 small business grant. So I filled that out. That is also still sitting in a pending spot. And according to them, there is not a place where I can go and check on the status of that. At some point, they said that an email will show up, and so apparently I need to be looking for an email. But once you fill out that SBA form, right now you don't have the ability to go and check the status of that. So that's where I am with those three programs. And so at this point, I filled out all of the things to get assistance. And so far, none of them have provided any assistance to our house. In addition, last year, our income was because of riches bonuses and a couple other things, we're not eligible for anything that the federal government's going to send by way of the tax returns. So in our household, even though our income is currently stalled because of Rich's contracts are currently pending, and I technically am not an Uber driver at the moment, it's interesting to see what resources are available and what has not been made available. Obviously, we're not in need, and so I'm not going out and taking advantage of the food banks or any of the nonprofits that are out there. And so I don't know what those systems are looking like right now, but I will keep up with you and let you know what the federal programs are and what the SBA programs are and what that's looking like, because I think that's important. And I always like they say that there's a system out there, and I'd like to test the system. So a couple of things. Just for clarification, if you are an elected leader, or if you are an established leader in a community, and you put yourself out there as a leader, and if you are on TV, and if you are in a position to make decisions that impact me or affect either negatively or positively members of the community, and I think that you're making decisions that that not only are bad decisions or negatively impact or even potentially put people's lives at risk, I am not going to be kind to you. Kindness is earned on some level. And so I've had a couple people coming back saying, oh, you're being so mean to the mayor. I thought that there was supposed to be kindness. Let me tell you what, right now I'm in blunt force kindness mode. And my kindness is about the people of our communities that don't have a voice, that don't understand the complexities of everything that's going on right now. And I will tell you what, I don't have a lot of room for people who are taking advantage of systems and this distraction and moving agendas and making bad decisions and putting people in harm's way. If you do that, don't you dare mistake my kindness for weakness. Don't. I am not the kindness police. I say you should do things from a place of kindness. And when I do things from a place of kindness, it almost always is in a protective and supportive and inclusive way. If I think that you as a leader, and you've put yourself out there as a leader, you are doing something that is harming others, I have no problem calling you out at all on every occasion. And that to me is being kind to my community members and to and to what it is that I know that is a good moral person. So if somebody who is an elected leader or is out there as a public figure and is acting like a buffoon or is making decisions that hurt other people, you bet your butt I'm going to say something about it, and I'm going to make sure the rest of the community understands that that decision was a poor one, or that modeled behavior is something that you shouldn't follow. And I will absolutely every single time identify that you shouldn't be in a position of authority doing that. For example, yesterday, our chief of police, the Houston chief of police, and the Houston Fire Department chief got together and went to a pop-up trailer restaurant in the middle of a parking lot where there were hundreds of people, and they took a selfie. All three of them bundled together with a whole bunch of people all crowded around behind them. And it was posted to that restaurant's Facebook page. This is the chief of police and the fire chief modeling terrible behavior. Terrible behavior. That's not acceptable. I believe they both need to be disciplined, and I think they both need to be off the job for a week. I think both of them need to be off TV and off camera, because none of them can figure out what 6 feet is. All of them. I don't think I've seen a public official yet that understands what 6 feet is. Every single one of them needs a 6-foot stick, because they don't have any idea because we've been using these words, social distancing, and social distancing isn't a thing. We've never heard of that before. It's not relatable. So instead of saying you need to be a sofa away from me, you need to be a 4-door Lexus sedan away from me, instead of saying you need to be 2 golden retrievers away from me, we're using words that people don't understand, and that is a giant communication fail. I swear, if I were in charge, everybody in charge of communication would be fired. They would be fired. Period. There hasn't been one thoughtful, consistent, constant, accurate source of information in the greater Houston area that has been reliable and that feels like you feel like somebody is in charge. There isn't one. There hasn't been a single press conference that I have watched that has come out of the state of Texas that has been in any way impressive to me. It's like everybody lost, nobody can remember their training. It's absolutely dumbfounding to me. And nobody in this state apparently knows how to wear a damn mask. I don't understand it. We have the world's largest medical center in the greater Texas area, and we have a huge amount of heavy industry. Everybody, including me, I have gone through so much safety training, it's not funny. I can't tell you the amount of times I have gone through PPE, personal protective equipment, safety training. And nobody in the city knows how to wear a mask. Nobody, including our elected leaders. It's astounding to me. It's stunning. Where did all the money go after 9/11 for everybody to be trained to have disaster planning? They're not even following what we would do if there was a hurricane. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And for that reason, I'm being very, very, very skeptical about what I'm seeing coming out of our politicians. And I will tell you, I am not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with what's happening. I'm not comfortable with what's being rolled out. I'm not comfortable with the information that's being given. I'm not comfortable with the information that's not being given. I'm concerned that there is not enough information. I believe down to my very bottom of my tiny, tiny, itty bitty toes, when people have access to accurate, timely, reliable information and resources that are there, and the ability to access those resources, people make good decisions for themselves. And at this point, I can tell you, I do not feel like we are getting timely, accurate, consistent, relatable information that is trustworthy and that has value. And so far, the resources that they say are there, I have not been able to find those resources yet. So I don't know if they're lying to me, or if they have bad information and somebody's lying to them. But at this point, I am not reassured. There's nothing about this that reassures me. And I'm not feeling good vibes about what's getting ready to come down the pike over the next couple of weeks in Houston. I'm not. I don't think we're anywhere close to our curve in Houston. I'm not. I don't. If you even look at the itty bitty teeny tiny amounts of testing we've done already, there's a lot of COVID out there, and it is spreading. It's absolutely spreading, and we're not seeing it yet. It's coming. And I, my heart breaks. My heart breaks because there's a lot of stuff that we could have done and should have been doing, and because of the people that, got elected, they're not doing it. And we don't have enough people that either have enough clout or have enough wisdom or have enough resources or have enough stones to stand up and say, you guys are doing all of this wrong. You're doing there isn't any of this. If I was in charge of this disaster, none of this would be happening this way. None of it. I can't tell you one thing that I think has gone well from a disaster management standpoint, as far as our local, state, and federal response has been. New York has been impressive. California has been impressive. And here's the thing, here's my microphone. If you're hearing me and that you're somebody in charge, it's absolutely okay to copy somebody's good idea in a disaster. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. If somebody has something that's working in another state, copy it. Go ahead. You don't even have to give them credit. Pretend it's your own idea. But it's okay if it saves lives. Now is not the time to talk about what team you're on, red or blue. Right now is whether or not you can save somebody's life. And right now, there have been a lot of people that have been in positions where they could mitigate the number of people that are going to be affected in Texas, and they haven't done it. They haven't. And it's the quiet ones. It's the ones you're not hearing from. I can promise you, I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. Tetra Tech, I saw that you got that $60 million medical pop-up tent in NRG's parking lot. I see that, and I see who you just hired back in December. I see what you're doing. You guys, these are people's lives. Shame on you. Shame on you. All those resources down on the border, you have to make, shame on you. Texas lives are going to be lost because of unfounded paranoia and racism. And shame on you. Shame on you. But I'm not in charge, so I don't get to make those decisions. So what I get to do is I get to sit here and I get to talk to you about what you can do for yourself, because there isn't a politician that is going to be able to save you. You're going to have to take care of yourself. You're going to have to find your own resources. You're going to have to go back to the videos I've done. You have to make sure that you have everything in your house that you need if you get sick to get through this virus in your house and go to the hospital as a last resort. But you need to know when you need to call for the hospital. You need to know, because if you get there too late, you're going to die. And even if you get there early, it's not clear that you're going to live. So make sure that you have a thermometer. Make sure you have an O2, an oxygen monitor for your finger. It will tell you whether or not your lungs are working. Make sure you have a couple of weeks of food in your house, that if you're not going to be able to go to the grocery store, or for whatever reason you can't get food, you have everything in your house you need to survive, and all of the people that live in your house for 2 weeks. Did you see the lines 2 days ago in El Paso or San Antonio for the food bank? 25 tractor trailers, $1 million worth of food. 10,000 people showed up to get food from the food bank 2 days ago. 10,000 people. 10,000 vehicles. That's not people, vehicles. You don't think that's an issue? You don't think we ought to be talking about that? You don't think that that's not going to come here to Houston? And let me tell you what. I love you, Texas. I think that you guys are as great as you think you are. But there's nothing about being Texan that is going to protect you from the coronavirus, COVID-19. There's nothing about being Texas that gives you any kind of superior power to it. I promise. You're going to get it, and your body is either going to get through it or it's not. And you don't have any idea how your body is going to react to it. So you have to be prepared. You have to have the stuff in your house when you get sick that you can get through being sick in your house without having to go to the hospital. And you need to know when you need to call 911. And that the best way to do that is you need an oxygen monitor. You need one of those fingertip oxygen monitors. Find one, get one, make sure every house has one. And if you can get your doctor to write you a prescription for it, make sure you have a prescription for albuterol. Make sure that you have an inhaler. That thing is going to make sure that your lungs stay open long enough for somebody to be able to come and give you oxygen and put you on a ventilator. You guys need to wake up and be really serious about this. This isn't cute. It's not funny. The policeman with ducklings isn't darling. It just shows me that either the police don't have enough to do, or they're not telling me that they need more resources. The fire chief needs to stop acting like this is funny on TV. I need people on TV that look serious and they're taking this seriously, because this is serious. This is a serious thing. This isn't funny and cute. It's not. You need to be able to feel confident that when you call 911, you're going to get a fireman who's going to show up with a thermometer. Sam Pena. You can't tell the general public you don't have thermometers. You can't tell people that, because that's not true. And Art Acevedo, you can't go to the turkey leg hut with 400 people and take a picture with them, elbow, armpit to armpit, and then tell people that they shouldn't be out in the street. You can't do that. People, you have to model the behavior you wish to see. You have to. We must require that from our elected leaders and from the people that are in charge. If you can't get the chief of police and if you can't get the fire chief to model the healthy behavior you need to see, why would you expect that from anybody else? If every single press conference Sylvester Turner can't wear a mask properly, which means it has to actually fold to your nose. You have to fold it to your nose. It doesn't sit on top of your nose. It doesn't sit under your nose. It doesn't sit down here. You fold it properly to your nose. If you're going to wear a mask and you are in charge of something, wear the mask properly. If you're not going to wear it properly, take it off. Because people are going to do what they see. They're not going to do what you say. So if you can't figure out how to put on a mask, don't put one on. Because if you show people how to put on PPE incorrectly, you're putting them in danger and you're wasting resources. God, it's like this city. This city has too many people that are already trained in PPE, not only on a medical side of things, as well as on just a hazardous work environment kind of thing. For those of us who know how to put on a mask, every time you show up on TV and you can't put on your mask right, it undermines your credibility, Dave Martin. If you can't put on a mask properly, or if you think it's cute, get off TV. Just get off. Get off of TV. I don't need you. I don't need you undermining the seriousness of what these doctors and these nurses in these hospitals are having to deal with. I don't need to see your political shit show. I'm not interested. If you're not going to take it seriously, get off TV. And if you can't communicate properly, if you can't figure out the word social distancing doesn't mean anything to people and that you need to stay a sofa away from me, if you come up with stupid words like recreational grouping and you're the communication person, I would fire you in a minute. An absolute minute. Disaster communication is the most important part of a disaster, and that is getting good, timely, accurate information out to people so they can make good decisions for themselves. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's serious. And if you can't do it, you need to quit or you need to get your shit together. And that is from a kind and loving heart. Because you are putting people's lives in danger. I'm very serious about that. I've spent way too much time in disaster management and hazardous waste management and having to do safety briefings for people at sites and in plants. That this is not, safety is never funny. It's never ever funny. Ever. Trains always win. Anybody that's been on a site, trains always win. Always wear your ear protection. Always drive with your windows down. Make sure that you stop and look both ways at a railroad track. Make sure you're seeing that you can't. Safety isn't funny. It's not funny. It's not cute. If you can't get on TV and be serious about it, then you shouldn't be on TV. Pick somebody else. I have a good idea. Why don't you put together a regional Houston COVID task force? And my suggestion would be to go back and find Ed Emmett and make Ed Emmett your spokesperson for the region. People take him seriously. If I were in charge of everything right now, I'd put Ed Emmett as the person in charge of all communication to the public. All. And if you have anything to say and you're from any of the departments, you have to go through his communications group first. You're getting mixed messages. The Harris County OEM, 1 minute says stay in your house, and the next minute they say go outside, it's good for you. You can't get any kind of coordinated information. It's the communications has been an absolute shit show, and everybody gets a big giant F. And apparently, Clear Lake City is not part of Adrian Garcia's district. So you know what, Adrian Garcia? I don't want to see you in Clear Lake City because you don't know who we are. You don't care about us. I don't want to see you and your little fishing vest over here for anything. Apparently, we're on our own, and so we're taking care of our own. So don't you dare come in after we have been on our own at the very end and try to say you've done anything for us, because you haven't. You haven't done one thing, not one thing for the Clear Lake City area. Nothing. Neither of you, Dave Martin. I've never been so disappointed in grown-up people in my entire life. This is a time where this is a time where leadership, you either have it or you don't. And there's way too many people who don't have any leadership skills at all. And they're not looking for any. And they're not looking for any support. And they're not looking for any help. And they should be. If I didn't know what I was doing, I would find somebody to do it for me. And none of you, there's too much ego now. Oh, heaven forbid you actually ask for help because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. I dare anybody who lives in Harris County, watch the commissioner's court that they had last week. Watch it. There isn't a grown-up in the room. There's not a grown-up in the damn room. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. There isn't a grown-up that knows what they're doing. I can't find a leader to save my life. Shame on all of you. So I'm going to do what I continue to do, and that is I will provide you the information that I have that you can use for yourself, because you have to make your own plans and you have to take care of yourself and each other. You have to start with your own personal medical information and write that down. You need to make sure that the people in your circle, the people that live in your house, also have their medical information written down. That information, and I'll put that again, you need to make sure that your forms are filled out. In the event you need anybody to notarize a form, I've given you information about, there's a thing called online notaries. It works. My friend Fran Watts, I have friends that I will attach, Sabrina Lee. There are people there that can do, I think Susan Chris can do online notarizing of documents. Make sure you got your wills together. The state of Texas has some weird laws when it comes to end of life. You have to make sure that you have like medical power of attorneys. You have to have all, even if you're married, you can be married in the state just by living together, but you can't make medical decisions without a piece of paper. Texas is its own brand of, unusual when it comes to a lot of rules. And so you want to make sure you have all the forms that you need filled out. Make sure you have all your HIPAA forms filled out. Make sure you have all of the information about what medicine you're taking, how much of it per day. You need to have that written down. You need to make sure you have all that information saved somewhere in a photo if you need to on your telephone. You need to make sure that you have your, in case of emergency numbers. You need to make sure that if you live by yourself and your next door neighbor is Erin, that you give your daughter or cousin Erin's last name and telephone number, because it's going to be really hard to find somebody named Erin in a metropolitan area of 7 million people. You have to be specific and you have to take the time to write this down. We're not close to our peak. And when we get to a peak, then they talk about flattening the curve. That doesn't mean that people stop getting infected. It just means that it steadies. New York is losing 700 people a day, death-wise, to this thing. We haven't even started our climb. The only thing that's you can't beat this. It's a virus. It's a really contagious virus. You can't beat it. It's not a war. This is not, if one more person calls this our Pearl Harbor, I'm going to throw up. It's not Pearl Harbor. This is a medical pandemic. You can't beat it without an inoculation or without a vaccine. Those two things. You need those two things to beat it. So flattening the curve means we're just making sure that it takes longer for everybody to get infected. It doesn't mean that it goes away. It won't go away until there's an inoculation or there's a vaccine. And we're not close to that. So I don't know what's going to happen. I can't give you the answers to that. But I can tell you that we're not close to a vaccine and we're not close to an inoculation. We're not. It just takes that long. And let me tell you what, the little thing, you'll drive up and go stick the thing up your nose and get your test back maybe in a week. Now it's up to like 20 days. They're 30 to 40% false negatives. Could you imagine if you took a pregnancy test and it could be 30 to 40% inaccurate? So the thing that goes up your nose and that maybe might come back in 10 to 15 days, it's 30 to 40% sending out false negatives. There is no data. The data's not there yet because the testing isn't there yet. All of this is educated guessing. And you just have to try and be as healthy and take advice from medical professionals that you trust. And politicians, most of them, are not medical professionals. So I would listen to them about laws that are changing. I would listen to them about, the programs that they're throwing out there that I have yet to be able to access. I personally don't know anybody who's gotten any benefit yet from anything that they've rolled out for COVID anything. I don't know. If you're lucky and you know Adrian Garcia, he's giving away $10 million. Maybe you can get some of the tax money he's giving away. It's not me. I'm not friends with him. I won't get any of that money. Do what you can do for yourself and for your family and be thoughtful. Watch your money. Watch your cash. Watch it. Maybe you do. Maybe you have enough money that you don't need any money for the next year and you can eat out every single night. But I would watch your cash. I would absolutely make sure that your house has enough non-perishable food so that you can feed your family for 2 to 4 weeks without having to go to the grocery store. I would do that. I would make sure that you have a inhaler with albuterol in it. That's what I would do. That's what we've done in our house. I would make sure that you have all the medical diagnostic equipment that you can use in your own house to give doctors good information. I have a blood pressure monitor. I've got a pretty accurate thermometer that also has an ear thing too, so you can take it off and it goes in your ear. And I would make sure that you have a O2 meter, a blood oxygen reader, because that's a diagnostic piece of information that you can give somebody who is a medical person over the phone that will tell somebody if you're dying. And ladies, you need to make sure that one of your pointer fingers needs to be au natural. It needs to be free of any crap that you're going to put on your finger. So you need to take off your nail polish, you need to take off the acrylic, you need to take off the gel, you need to take off whatever you have on there. It needs to be, you need an empty nail bed for 2 reasons. One is they will press on your nail bed to see whether or not it turns blue, the different colors. That's like one of the things that paramedics do. And the second thing is if they need to put the O2 monitor on your finger, a lot of times it doesn't read through all the junk on your fingernail. So if your life is important to you during this time, I would suggest that you keep one of your pointer fingers free so that in the event somebody needs to identify if your lungs are working, that's something that's easy for them to do instead of either not being able to get that information or ripping them off and ripping half of your nail bed off. That's not funny. That's just the truth. You need to make sure you have some Tylenol. You need to make sure you have some electrolytes at your house. You need to make sure that you have some stuff to get through to get through this. They keep saying I felt like I got hit by a train. Sounds like you need some expectorant. Sounds like you need to make sure that, you've got, you understand how to not get pneumonia. You need to understand that you just can't lay down during this. You have to get up, and you won't want to, and you'll have to cough productively, and you'll have, and sometimes if you have to lay on your stomach. You have to give the back of your lungs a break. You need to cough sitting forward. If you have someone in your house that's willing to get near you, they need to cough, cup and clap your back to make sure you're getting all of that junk out of your lungs. Your only job with this virus when you get it is to not get pneumonia. I wish they would just come out and say that. They won't. I don't know why they won't say that. If and when you get this virus, your number one job is to not get pneumonia. And there are things you can do to reduce that probability. Take 4 hot showers a day. You make sure, if you don't have a humidifier, you make sure you're boiling water and bringing it to a simmer and putting a towel over your head, and you're breathing in. You're doing like a humid breathing treatment every few hours. You need to make sure you're standing up and moving around. The best way to die from pneumonia is to lay down and not move. Old people will tell you that. Your old grandma would tell you that. It calls pneumonia the old person's. It's the old person's disease, old person's gift. If you just lay there, your lungs will fill up with stuff and you'll die of pneumonia. So if you don't want to die of pneumonia, do the things that you have to do to not die of pneumonia, which is, and you're not going to want to stand up, and you're going to have to do it anyway. You're not going to want to cough, but you're going to have to do it anyway. And you're also going to need some help. So if you live by yourself, you need to make sure that there is somebody out there. You need to probably make sure that there are 2 or 3 somebodies that you can call that will check up on you. You need to do that. You can't do this by yourself. In our country, I do not get it. My son is taught over and over and over and over. And Laura DuPont, if you're still listening to me, this is why I don't believe that everybody is a leader. You're not a leader. You don't know if you're a leader until it's time to become a leader. What you need to do is you need to become a good community member. And in order to become a good community member, it means you need to be able to ask for help. And we are teaching kids not to ask for help. We're teaching adults not to ask for help. Oh, you can't ask for help because, I made it by myself. No, you didn't. You don't do anything by yourself. We do things in collective groups, whether or not you want to admit it. So you're going to have to ask for help and figure out who you're going to ask for help. And really, the best thing to do is to ask somebody for help before you need the help. Hey, Erin, I live by myself and I'm worried that if I get this, that no one will be able to take care of my cat. Can I call you? And I can say either, yes, of course. Tell me more about your cat. Tell me what you think you need. How am I going to get into your house? How do I know when I need to come in? How do I know when it's serious? Or I'm going to say, no, I can't take care of your cat. I'm deathly allergic to cats. And, I have my hands full with something else. You're going to have to ask somebody else. The very best thing you can do is make a plan. Make a plan. You can take all of your leadership quality crap and throw that out the window. You can keep your hazmat training. You can keep your PPE training. You can keep your I'm a good neighbor training. You can be a helper. That would be awesome. So, what am I reading? I read the Trib. I read the Texas Tribune. They're giving fairly honest information. The Chronicle isn't doing bad. They're doing okay. They lost a couple of their good reporters, but they got a couple other pretty good ones. So the Chronicle isn't bad. If I was in Galveston, you're getting, it's such a tiny island that you're going to get good information from the Daily News and from I-45, whether or not they want that news to get out, because there's just no such thing as a secret on Galveston Island. So both of those places are giving you good information about what to expect to a certain extent. Again, we went through the thing last week 2 weeks ago where, my friend couldn't get any kind of medical help, and we had to figure out how to identify that you could get medical help from the urgent care instead of going to the emergency room. You cannot drive up to an emergency room. You cannot drive up to a hospital. You just can't. You have to make telephone calls. So if you think that you are in immediate need of medical attention, you need to call 911 and have a ambulance deliver you to a hospital. If you think that you're going to need something done to you inside of a hospital, I strongly suggest you call 911 and get there by way of an ambulance. Driving up, you are not going to have the experience that you've ever had before going to a hospital right now. So unless you have something that is kind of an urgent care, again, you just don't drive up to urgent cares. Call them ahead of time. Call them. You can't just drive up. The medical stuff is changing every day. You can keep up with some of Abbott's declarations and his executive whatevers. He's making it easier for like medical students to do stuff. He's making it easier for like the people at the pharmacies to fill prescriptions, to relieve some of the responsibilities that the pharmacists are having to make that they normally do. There's there's some things about if you've been retired, you can come back and become a nurse pretty easily without taking tests or something. But for the most part, he hasn't signed anything recently that I think that is super important that affects me yet. So when he does that kind of stuff, I'll obviously put it on all of my pages and send that out, because I promise you that during all of this, I will continue to provide the information that I know, that I believe is accurate, with the resources and the information that I understand as best as I'm able to be correct and to be helpful. I will absolutely tell you when I see bullshit, and where I see that there's a road to, I will warn you. I will give you warnings about things that I think that look like they might be there, but there aren't, because I don't want anybody to waste their time. Time is going to be a very, very precious commodity, and I respect your time. And then I also we'll let you know how it goes with the programs. And I anticipate I'll get some more information about filling out all those applications sometime this week. So I'll let you know. So far, I haven't been able to get unemployment from the state of Texas. And so far, I'm pending on food stamps. And I had put in my application for SBA, the grant, and a loan. And then, of course, I filled out to see if I was eligible for TANF, which is the fancy word for welfare, which understandably I was turned down for. So if you have any questions, as always, send me a note, send me a private message if you need. My phone number is all over this telephone. It does not bother me in the least if you want to share this with any of the politicians that I'm incredibly disappointed in. And I also have maintained at any point that they would like assistance, I remain available. I'm available. I'm available to any of these public officials who would like to take a look at their communication strategy and fine-tune it. I'm available. Adrian Garcia knows I'm available. The mayor knows I'm available. The mayor's staff knows I'm available. People know my background. They know that I'm capable of doing this. They know that I have the experience doing it. I'm easy to reach. But instead, we have who we have, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And I'm going to give you an idea of what's real and what isn't. And if there's anything that I can do to help you personally or help you find a resource, let me know. Please, 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 please. If you are in a place where you are at your wit's end, I've attached some telephone numbers below. There's a phone number. There's a 24-hour crisis number that is available. It is Texas-wide. Please call it. Please call it. It's confidential. You can even call them just to complain about listening to me if you need to do that, which I understand. If you are at your wit's end and you find yourself crying, if you find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself in a space where nobody is listening to you, you feel like you're alone, call that telephone number. There are wonderful people on the other end of the line that want to talk to you, and they will talk to you about how you're feeling, and they will help you. So if you need help, call. Right down below. You can call that crisis line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and someone will answer the telephone and talk to you. In the event you are in a situation where you are experiencing domestic violence and you can't call 911, there is a telephone number for HAWC, H-A-W-C, below. Call them. They will confidentially come up with a plan for you. In addition, there is a second hotline for HAWC in the event that you have become, that you're a victim of sexual violence. Call them. They will help you. This is not a time to not take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. If you need help, reach out and ask for help. Everybody needs help right now. I promise you, everybody needs help. This is extraordinarily overwhelming. We have had moments in our house. We kind of go through them in like a cycle. There are 3 of us, and everybody's on a different roller coaster. And it's like personality management at our house. But we've had enough therapy, and we have enough people around us that we have coping mechanisms that we use that we were taught. We didn't learn them. We had to learn them. We didn't just know them. I spent a lot of money learning how to be married to rich for 20 years. Are you kidding me? So being human is part of this. And if you are at your wit's end, if you are crying in your shower, if you feel like it's the end of the world, if you haven't gotten out of bed and haven't taken a shower in 3 days, call them. They will give you a list of things to do. Sometimes you just need people to say, it's time for you to get out of bed. You need to go and take a shower. After that, you need to go brush your teeth. And after that, you need to go eat something that is good for you. And then you need to go take a 5-minute walk. And that may not be right now since it's almost midnight. But there are people on the other end of these telephone numbers that are not going to judge you, that will be there, that will help you. And if you need help, you have to call them. They're not mind readers. Nobody knows right now. Everybody's isolated. Nobody knows if you haven't gotten out of your bed in 5 days. Only you know that. And you have to be brave and ask for help, because that's not healthy and that's not normal. I care about you. You're very, very, very important to me. And you're important to a lot of people. So the kindness part is be kind to yourself and be kind to your mind, because you can't be kind to others unless you're in a space that you feel safe and that you feel as confident as you can be that you are protected. So you have to take care of yourself. You just have to. And you have to ask for help if you need help, because it's there and nobody's going to give you a hard time about it. We are in new, untested waters. And this is hard. This is hard. It's hard. And if you're not doing it well or right, or if you've yelled at your kids too many times, or if you're losing your mind, call the telephone numbers. Call the hotline. That's why it's there. That's why it's there. They'll walk you through. They'll guide you through some stuff you can do that will make it better. It won't make all of it better, but it'll make the moment better and give you some things that you can do to climb down from the ceiling. Everybody wants you to be okay. I want you to be okay. So I'm going to keep doing these videos. Sometimes I'll be in a bee outfit, sometimes I won't. And I'm going to keep thinking about you, and I'm going to keep being available. And I'm going to keep telling you what I think works, what I think doesn't work. I'm going to tell you what I think I know, because you're important to me. And when I give you information, it's your responsibility to give that information to other people too. This is not a time to be selfish with information that is actually helpful. Please, if that's the Easter gift you're going to give somebody, is I'm not trying to make a name for myself or do anything else. I want you to know what's out there, what's available. I want you to feel confident. I want you to feel like you can make good decisions for yourself. So if by sharing any of this information that I'm giving you is helpful to somebody else, please do it. Please do it. And it's okay if you don't like me. It's really okay. I mean, all of this, of course, is my opinion. All of this is from my perspective and my background. You don't have to agree with me. You can tell me I'm full baloney. I respect that's you're welcome to, believe whatever you want to believe, as long as it doesn't hurt me or others. So pass the information along if you'd like to. I will include some of the other forms. Go back and look at some of the other videos. You don't have to look at the whole videos. In all of the descriptions, there's always information about the forms you need to have filled out. That you have about another week to do some planning. Make sure you've done it. Make sure you have written down the information. Write it down. And if you haven't thought about it, you probably should be keeping a diary, because your grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to want to know the thoughts that their grandparents and great-grandparents had during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. They're going to want to know. So even if you're not a big writer, write some stuff down or do a video journal for yourself or something, but record how you're feeling, because I think that this is one of these moments in world history that people are going to go back and look at for a long, long time, and want to know as much as they can about who is doing what, where, and how people are feeling. Anyway, so I know it's a weird Easter Sunday. Sorry about that. I'm glad you're here. Glad to see you. I hope that you're following I hope you're washing your hands and using soap. Hope that you're cleaning your bathrooms. That's another place that you want to keep real clean. I hope that you found bleach somewhere and you've made your squirt bottle full of bleach, because it's all you need for your doorknobs and stuff. You don't really need Lysol. I mean, you can have it, but the bleach water works too. I hope that you're finding things that you're grateful for. I hope that you're finding time to go for a walk every day. I think that's really important, to get outside. I hope that you are talking to at least one or two people on the telephone every day. We've gotten really used to texting, and talking to people is different. And make sure that you're reaching out to people that sometimes can be emotionally fragile, and that you're also making sure you're reaching out to people to make sure that you are having out loud conversations with other human beings, and it's not just on a text. And I hope everybody's being thoughtful about turning off their Zoom when they use the restroom. And I hope you're not watching too much television. Too much television is bad for you. But I'll talk to you again. If you have any questions, let me know. It's always cool to be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. Try to be kind to yourself and your kids. Please be kind to your kids. They're not acting badly. They're just bored and scared like you are. And I'll see you later. Try to get some sleep, okay? Bye.